Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today for an overview of EPM Live and our offerings in the areas of enterprise project, portfolio, and overall work management. The idea here is that we provide these types of solutions for everyone, no matter what type of organization or what type of organizational readiness they may have. So we provide SharePoint-based project, portfolio, and work management solutions. We've been in this realm and in this subject matter expertise since 1999. We started out as a consultancy, and with best practices that we've evolved over time, we've decided and we've kind of determined that there's gaps in the offerings out there in the marketplace. So our solutions are based on our experience in working with over hundreds and hundreds of clients as to what are needed in different scenarios. One of the things that we add to the mix of EPM solutions is the fact that we provide pre-built solutions so that the implementation costs and the time to solution is a lot less than it would be should you choose not to go with something that requires custom configuration right from the ground up. Also, we offer online solutions in more of a SaaS model or licensed solutions so you can determine which way we're going to deploy the solution for you. Also, we are built using 100% Microsoft-based software, SharePoint, Microsoft Project, etc., SQL Server, so that if you're a Microsoft shop, we fit very nicely into your strategy. And we're a full-service company, so we provide all the deployment services, professional services, and obviously the hosting and online services that you may need. If you look at what we call our big picture, and you look at this from the top down as a process or a life cycle, from the intake, demand management, ideas, project requests, work requests, etc., all the way through the selection, portfolio management of what it is that we are going to work on, prioritization, capacity planning, budgeting, etc., all the way through whatever comes out of that funnel to manage and execute that work, whether it be project or operational work. We provide all the tools in a collaborative fashion to allow you to do that in an effective manner. And because we provide these capabilities all in a common solution, the business intelligence, the analytics, the reporting, etc., all is a natural output of the process. You no longer have to go to multiple data sources, multiple systems to get the information you need. The key here is that from a project management maturity perspective, and this concept means that not every organization, nor does every aspect or part of an organization have the same level of readiness or project management maturity. With that being said, we can deploy EPM Live and our different solutions to whatever level of discipline, rigor, or maturity that makes the most sense for your organization. And if you have different levels of rigor, maturity, or readiness at different parts of your organization, we can accommodate all of those within the same umbrella and provide enterprise reporting and visibility to your management. In this continuum, or what we call the swoosh, from Project Engine, which is really an online SaaS model, online-based, subscribe, get up, and manage a project today, you can get on there for free or for very low cost to do schedule management, team collaboration, and all the things you want to manage around a project. Very low cost, very low entry, and competes very well with any of what we would consider the low-end project management solutions online out there in the marketplace. But if you go to the next realm and you go to Work Engine, we offer that in either a SaaS or an online model, or in-house or licensed, where people want to really do enterprise project and work management, focus on the execution, look at a portfolio of all the projects and see what's happening with everything that's going on in the organization. That's a tool set that's there for the folks that are ready for that level of discipline. And then we got Portfolio Engine, which really builds upon Work Engine and provides everything that Work Engine does, but adds the top-down strategic stuff, looking at strategic alignment, looking at project scoring and metrics, looking at overall demand management, capacity planning, budgeting, and all the things that are going to help you decide which investment bets are the right projects for your organization. We provide all this level of rigor and capability within the same suite. And the thing is here, instead of going with a low-end tool, for example, if you're on the lower end of the capabilities here, and then having to choose another tool set later on, we provide you a platform where you can grow up to the very most mature capabilities all through your life cycle and through the evolution of your organization. So let's start with Work Engine. Project Engine is really about a single project, collaborative environment that you can get up for free with as many users as you want. We can talk about that, and I'm happy to explore that with you on another day. But if you're an organization and you're managing multiple projects, Work Engine is really where the execution of multiple projects and the resource allocations across all of those is really where that all starts. So Work Engine provides a full EPM, or Enterprise Project Management solution, for executing on all projects and management of all types of work. We provide portfolio visibility. No matter how many projects you're working on, we roll up all the data to see where we're at on all our projects. We provide automated roll-ups of all information. I don't care if you have issues or issues logs in about 100 projects. We can actually give that to you in a centralized format and be able to look at that without having to go into each individual project. Even more importantly, we manage all types of work, whether you're managing traditional waterfall projects, more iterative, agile-based or agile scrum-based projects, or even unplanned service work, service requests, tickets, etc. We can manage all of that within Work Engine in a common solution. Also, if you're doing program management, we can actually manage multiple schedules in a project workspace. So if you have a program that's made up of multiple efforts that are all achieving to a common goal, we can manage that as an entity as opposed to managing them as separate individual projects. And we also have a reporting solution that, even though we're based in SharePoint, we provide a great set of tables and reporting formats that you can actually get that data out in a very easy, human discernible format, especially if you want to write your own reports with your own reporting tools. It really all starts with the project workspaces. If you're used to using SharePoint, you know, you've built team sites or project sites, etc. We have a large number of templates for different types of projects that we might want to manage. And all of the detailed things you might want to manage or aspects you might want to manage around a project are all available to you through our templates. Project tasks and schedules, resources, issues, risks, change requests, status reports, action items, documents and artifacts, discussion threads, wikis, etc. All available to you in a central hub so that all the information around a project in detail for a project team can be managed right here. But then again, we might have different flavors of those templates. So you might have different types of projects with different levels of complexity, different levels of rigor, different levels of process, or different subject matter expertise. We can actually accommodate all those within our solution and then roll up the data so we can get a comprehensive view of everything that's going on within the organization, from a task, from a project, from a resource perspective. Now, even if you don't have this simple two-level hierarchy, we can model almost any organization. If you think about your total organization at the blue level above here in the enterprise, and you look at business units or departments or other subdivisions within your organization at that red level, we can actually have almost sub-solutions within that area so that each of those red areas can manage their own portfolio to their own specs, to their own level of rigor, yet roll up ultimately to the enterprise for the things that the company needs for total visibility and management. End of the day, the solutions and the functionality and the features we provide are all provided to you through SharePoint. So in here, portfolio management, looking at roll-ups and metrics and KPIs about all the things that are going on in your projects are a natural output of what we're doing, things that don't happen right out of the box with SharePoint. From a resource management capability, looking at all the assignments that people have against them, and looking at how that maps to their capacity and seeing whether we're over or under allocated is very valuable to a lot of organizations, especially functional managers. From a work management capability at the bottom, having one place to go where a resource can go to see everything that's been assigned to them across all projects or even non-project work in one work bin, whether it be all projects, whether it be project tasks in a schedule, whether it be action items or issues or service requests, whatever it might be, to have it presented to them in one place and give them one place to actually provide status and update and progress is a huge time savings for the team members on your projects. From a schedule management perspective, we have our own online work planner that does all the basics: building tasks, work breakdown structures, dependencies, assigning resources, and baselining projects. All the things that most people do in things like Microsoft Project are available to you right in a web browser. But folks like me who have been using Microsoft Project for years, I like the fact that we have our project publishing capability that allows us to take our Microsoft project plans and publish them out to SharePoint and into Work Engine anytime we want, and have our team members provide updates in that SharePoint-based Work Engine environment and have that information flow back to us via approval through Microsoft Project. For folks that want to do time reporting, we have a built-in time reporting solution, so that our timesheet allows you to capture time against any work element in the solution. And our out-of-the-box SQL reporting services reports, Excel integration, and our charting web parts allow you to do metrics and analytics that are truly a natural output of your project management process. We talked about different types of project workspaces. We have a number of out-of-the-box methodologies available to you, but it by no means limits you to tailoring any one of these to the specific nuances of the needs and the processes of your organization. At the end of the day, you can have a template library that allows you for any project you initiate to choose the appropriate template with the appropriate level of rigor and the appropriate level of process that makes sense for that type of project. And I think the key here is a lot of folks buy very expensive standalone EPM, which is Enterprise Project Management, PPM, Project Portfolio Management solutions, to provide these capabilities. Our value proposition is that we provide every bit of this functionality right in your SharePoint environment. So our proposition is that for an incremental investment, we can help you get more value out of your existing investment into SharePoint, and we can actually be part of what you're doing for all other types of work and not be yet another silo of information in your corporate environment. So if you look at Work Engine, we're based on, if you look at the lavender level, on SharePoint with its SQL Server backend database. We provide work features. So for any type of work element, you can take as broad or as narrow a definition of work as you want in this solution. They could be just your project tasks and your schedules if you want it to be. But even in the project management realm, there's a lot more actionable things that have to happen by people to successfully complete a project. You have to get people to deal with issues. You have lower level action items or to-dos. You have change requests and approvals, etc. Also, if you do things in some of your work efforts in a more agile Scrum environment, you've got backlogs, you've got defects, you've got features and things that have to be put into iterations or sprints. We provide templates for all that. And then for the ad hoc stuff, the unplanned work, the service requests, the more operational things, we have the ability to assign people to those work elements as well. The key here is that you can actually roll up all that information to see what's on everybody's plate and look how that impacts everybody from a total roll-up perspective. And if you have other systems that are already in play that actually generate some of the stuff, like help desk tickets, etc., at a minimum, we can bring that data in and look at total workload to get an idea whether or not the work that you're taking on is even doable, and do some analytics as far as trade-offs, as whether or not we have a better resource mix, better assignment mix for the work that's at hand. Before I get into the demo, let's get on to Portfolio Engine. If you remember, I talked about that continuum and that swoosh. If you go up to that next level of maturity, Portfolio Engine really gets up to that executive level tool. It's really about strategic project portfolio management and planning. And if you do that, it's really looking from an executive decision and an investment making perspective, long before we start executing on these projects in something like Work Engine. So what Portfolio Engine is, it provides strategic top-down PPM or project portfolio management capabilities. And it adds to Work Engine. We have all the Work Engine capabilities available to you in Portfolio Engine, but we add portfolio selection and strategic alignment, top-down resource capacity planning, cost planning and budgeting on a very detailed basis, and very robust what-if modeling and optimization to decide what's the best mix of resource allocation and project selection makes the most sense for our organization. Let's just start with the idea, a request in the business case. Very robust forms, and by the way, these are configurable to the parameters that are based on, that are most applicable to your organization. But getting a project request on the radar and building a business case for it, and what's the budget ask, what's the resource ask, what's the risk level and tolerance, etc. How well does it strategically align with our objectives? These are things that can all be captured right within the solution. We can also align ourselves with, the valuation of how well it strategically aligns. Is it going to provide cost reduction or revenue generation? Is it going to do some other things that actually add value to the organization? And we can actually have weighted scoring mechanisms that actually provide a objective, consistent weighting scoring mechanism to determine what's the best selections for our organization. No longer is it about who screams the loudest or who has the biggest pull. The key here is that once we do all that, we can start adding different attributes to each proposed or active portfolio item. From a capacity planning perspective, those of us that are used to using things like Microsoft Project and doing things that are very tactical level, we can get capacity planning, but it's all from the bottoms-up perspective, where you're rolling up detailed task assignments and figuring out what the total aggregate cost of that is, what the total aggregate demand is for that resource. Well, what if before we even have a detailed schedule or task plan in place, we're trying to justify a project? We could select an actual project or portfolio item and then start looking at what roles, maybe not even what people, and even on an FTE basis or an hours basis, determine what the requirement is for each of those projects. And if we do this for each and every project, we can start looking and then slicing through this to see what does this mean for us as far as commitment. Are we over or under allocated by department, by group, by skill set? The idea is that it's part of the business case. Part of what people want to know is what's the resource commitment we need to make in order to do this project. From a cost management perspective, we can do very detailed line item budgets on each portfolio item, requested or active projects. We can look at labor categories, hard dollar categories like materials, contracts, travel and living, etc. The idea is as we build in this time-phased, line item-based budget, we'll come up with a total base budget for this project and really be able to support it with line item detail. And then we can start tracking actuals and revised forecasts against these same categories to see if we're tracking to what we committed to when we justified the project. Then we can start looking at, from a portfolio perspective, are we over or under budget on any of these projects? So when we look at budget versus actuals, here where you're looking at red, we're running over budget. And I could actually expand the actuals on that and see which category of budget or which line item of budget we're actually running over on. Very good, accountable, traceable type of accountability in our projects. And then, if we look at the resource commitments and the budget and dollar commitments that we're proposing to make on these projects, we can start doing very robust what-if modeling. What if we selected all the proposed and active projects? I can go in and look at those selections and look in a very heat map fashion at the lower pane of this window that popped up and see where we might be over or under our capacity or capabilities or budget in any one of the categories that we've planned to. Now the key here is, should we deselect lower priority projects? Should we move other projects slightly out in time to make everything fit? Well, you can do all the above or a mix of all the above to figure out the right optimum mix to how we can get this stuff accomplished. End of the day, we can manage and track any metrics or data elements that you feel are important to your portfolio analysis, and then rank our projects accordingly, trend them, graph them, and report on them so that you can make very intelligent, objective decisions about the projects you choose to embark upon. With that, let me go into the solution itself. So let's start with the work engine capability. From the execution perspective, here I am in SharePoint. For those of you familiar and working with SharePoint, this might look very familiar to you in 2010. I'm authenticated in here as Steve Masters, typically by Active Directory. And based upon that, I'm given certain rights and certain capabilities that give me access to certain features, functionality, and data. So here on our typical homepage template, by the way, which can be modified by you if none of these things apply to you. But for example, all my active projects that I'm either an owner of or a member of, show up here in my own little mini sub-portfolio so I can see how these projects are doing, and with hyperlink drill down into any one of those projects on demand. So I don't have to look at an entire portfolio of projects to get to the projects that are relevant to me. Also, I have a My Work web part. Now, there's a bigger My Work area in our solution that gets the total package to you. But the most recent things that are due or overdue, I can see whether they're project tasks, issues, service requests, change requests, whatever they might be. Anything that's on my plate gets presented to me the moment I come into the solution. And I can provide status and updates on this by either clicking Edit or completing that by hitting the checkbox. Write very simply, but seeing and having a constant gauge on what's expected of me and providing a good mechanism to provide feedback. Other parts like how much I've got overdue and what's due this week, what's due in the future, and all other things that I can add to this mix. Okay. If I want to add a new project, if I have the rights and the capabilities in this solution to add a new project, I can click on a new project and actually open up what we call a template library that actually will make available, depending on your configuration, a variety of templates that make the most sense for you depending on what diversity of projects you have. And here we have all kinds of templates, not only in the local gallery, but we have an online gallery where you can download more. But the key is, in a simple fashion, you might have IT projects, you might have lightweight and capital projects, you might have a business project like a marketing project, you might have infrastructure or construction projects, etc. The idea that each of those templates could be available to you here. And all you have to do is select the appropriate template, which is a workspace with all the content and methodology in it, give it a project name, create it, and all of a sudden you have a brand new project on board. If we go to the Project Center, what you'll see is that we end up with a portfolio of all the projects that you have visibility to, and in any case, you can actually look at them in a variety of different views. I can have any number of views that we provide you out of the box, or you can create new ones that show different columns of data, different KPIs. They may be grouped and filtered by different parameters. The key is you might have hundreds of projects in this system, but maybe the only ones that are relevant for your view might be a couple dozen of them. The key is you can categorize them and view them and score them any way you like. Now, if I want to go down to a specific project, I can click on the name of the project, and that would take me actually down to the workspace level. So here, now that I'm down in this strategic merger evaluation project, I'm now looking at specifics about this one project, not just a portfolio of projects. So here I've got the KPIs and metrics for this project. I've got a part here that can tell me everything that's overdue without me having to go through the entire lengthy schedule to figure out what that is. I have a activity stream that will tell me everything that's been changed about this project since I've been last in here. Individual reminders. I can actually build a project team meaning that I can go in here and out of a resource pool of hundreds or thousands of people, I can choose which people out of the resource pool are actually part of this project team. I can select them and add them to the team, and then once I add them to the team, I can give them the rights or the roles that I've identified in here right from here. So as a project manager or as a PMO, I have very positive control over who has what access to what projects without having to be a SharePoint expert. And on this particular project, this one was actually planned in detail using our online work planner. So if I click on Edit Plan, our online work planner will launch, and without having to have any other scheduling capabilities, it will load a tool that will allow me to do all the things which are 90% of the things that people use in things like Microsoft Project. As you can see, we built a hierarchical work breakdown structure plan. I can build durations, start and finish dates. I can put work estimates against tasks. I can assign resources, multiple resources per tasks. I can do percent completes, and I can even do predecessors. What's nice about this is that for any particular task, I can click on a task, I can go look at the details, and over to the right, I can see everything that's particular about the data and the metadata around the task. I can look at the resources that are assigned. I can not only just share the resource load of the estimate, or I can individually say, make an individual. Maybe Adam's only working 6 hours and then Steve's working 18. The idea is that we can choose the resource types that we want, the resource allocation types that we want. And from a precedence perspective, we can actually choose all the 4 major types, or all the 4 types of precedence types: finish to start, finish to finish, start to start, start to finish, and any lags that might be included, both positive and negative. So the key here is all the things that people want to do: building their plans, adding summary tasks, milestones, tasks, being able to go into a project and be able to create and set baselines. These are things that we can all do right here online. Now that being said, there's a bunch of us out there that have spent years using Microsoft Project. And for those of us that are using Microsoft Project, let me go to a workspace that actually used Microsoft Project as its planning mechanism. And the key here is, in this Xbox project, build the same team the same way, but we click on Edit Plan, what ends up happening is it launches Microsoft Project. And what we interject into the mix is a tool called the Publisher that allows us to build our plan in Microsoft Project, but then publish all the details. Every field of data that's in Microsoft Project is available to publish out to SharePoint and into Work Engine, and then actually have that information be made available to the masses. So let's say, for example, we're in here. That Microsoft Project Plan got published out there, and now it's viewable in SharePoint by everybody without having to send copies of the MPP around, without having to print PDFs, or have everybody have a copy of Microsoft Project on their desktop in order to see it. So look at this. In SharePoint, which is typically flat list, notice I have a 4-deep hierarchy based upon the tasks that were created in Microsoft Project. I can even change views if I want. I can go in here and say, let me see it in a Gantt chart. I can look at that same list of features or same list of an overall project plan in a Gantt chart and look at it right here in my SharePoint environment. Also, like the portfolio, I can have any number of views. So let's just say, for example, like in Project, I wanted to look at just milestones. I can look at that very quickly right in my environment and say, here's all my milestones and here's the completion status on all those. What's nice about this is that the tasks are here. People can update them out in Work Engine out in SharePoint. They could go to their My Work area and they could actually update their tasks specifically that are assigned to them. But when they update them out here in SharePoint, if I'm the project manager, I'm in Microsoft Project, with our publisher I could say, let me check and update progress. Any updates that were made out in that collaborative environment now present themselves to me here in Microsoft Project. And I can look at this task and I can say, oh, Steve Masters upped the percent complete from 88 to 100%. I can just accept that and it will update the task here in Microsoft Project. I could send an email and get clarification if I'm not quite sure what he means. The key here is I publish it out and communicate out to the team, and the team out in a collaborative SharePoint environment and work engine provides feedback to me, and I don't have to knock on doors, collect emails, transcribe that information, or poll people around a conference table, a weekly status meeting. It's all happening in a very streamlined fashion here in Work Engine. And in that work center and in that workspace, we can manage things like project tasks, assignments, issues logs, other lists like action items, libraries like project document libraries, discussion threads, etc. So if we consider that we're going to do this on a wide variety of projects, if I bump up to the enterprise level in Work Engine and I want to look at things in the aggregate, I don't have to go into the individual project workspaces to get all that information. For example, if I wanted to go in the Work Center and I wanted to look at all issues across all projects, it's now going to give me all the issues now across multiple projects without having to go into each individual project workspace, which is what you would have to do with SharePoint out of the box. If you want to look at how this means from a resource allocation perspective, SharePoint does no resource management. If I go into the assignments area in the Resource Center and I want to look at a group of resources or an individual resource, in this case let me take a look at Steve Masters, who I know has a lot of data in this demo data set, and I look at the resource plan, it's going to aggregate all of his work into a common view and see and show me whether he's over or under allocated in general across all the stuff that's being put on his plate. What's nice about this, it's crawling every SharePoint workspace, every work element that he's assigned, and it's going to present that to me in a very succinct and clear fashion. So you can see that he's got some ups and downs in how he's allocated. If I expand Steve, you can see that there's time off, there's service requests, there's project tasks, there's changes, and you can see how it all aggregates into whether or not he's over or under allocated on his availability line. Also, this opens up in a very what-if fashion where I can start dragging work into other periods so I can see if I can fit him and get him to a place where he can either do this work or maybe I can reassign this to people to where it's all doable from an overall perspective. The key here is I get visibility into this long before I over-allocate Steve. From a reporting perspective, we have standard reports, and we have dozens of standard reports. But things like project reporting, I can go in here and I can look at things like dashboards and other things. Let's just say a project financial dashboard. I can very quickly, in this pre-configured report, look at budget versus actual, how much budget by type of project and budget by priority of project, and then have actually detailed objective data to support those graphs where I can drill into each individual project and see how we're doing on budget versus actual. So these are things that are available to you out of the box. But with basic SharePoint skills and an understanding of our underlying data structure, you could actually modify and add things to this library that are very specific to you. We also have a number of SQL reporting services, SSRS reports, available to you, so you can do very dynamic and robust reporting there as well. One of the nice advantages there is if I go into the reporting services and I look at the report formats, and by the way, you can add as many report formats to this library as you want, but just a simple case of a project status summary, a status report that you might want to do at a push button without any effort at all. Just make sure your data is current, and if I apply that and run the report, in one fell swoop, I get header information, KPIs, schedule status, cost status, milestone completion, and then I believe we have issue and risk information of what's still open. Very succinct. And with SSRS, I can either look at it in this viewer online, or I can export it to common formats like PDF, Excel, and Word that I can distribute to folks that insist on having reports pushed to them. I guess one of the key things here is that from a My Work perspective, a resource only has one place to go called My Work, where they can take a look at everything that's on their plate. I don't have to go to multiple systems. So here I've got a view that's grouped by when things are due. So what's overdue? I have some service requests, issues, changes, project tasks, etc. I have other things coming up this week, like a project task in this strategic project. The key is I can either open these up and edit them, I can just complete them with a checkbox, and I don't have to go chasing these things around to figure out what's expected of me. Now, if you think about all this stuff in the terms of execution, planning projects, assigning tasks, and having people execute and complete things on projects, what about that portfolio engine capability that we talked about earlier on? In Portfolio Engine, you can have a total portfolio of projects, both proposed and active through a different life cycle, etc. And you could actually have, say, a form that helps you build that business case. For example, this form gives me an idea of how to categorize the project, describe it, enumerate the benefits. And in this case, just getting it on the screen and getting it in the mix might involve just a small amount of data. Here, the life cycle stage was the very early stages just to get it so somebody can consider it for further evaluation. What if we were down further in the life cycle stages? Then all of a sudden this form could open up, and as standard in our solution, then opens up other information that you might want to categorize, like when you might want to start and finish it, what the budget might be, what the projected return and ROI might be, how much work or how much resource effort is required. And then from a scoring perspective, how well does this strategically align? How well might it improve employee satisfaction? Does it provide any cost reduction? Is there a risk factor? And any of these, and by the way, you can add your own metrics in here that apply to the way you decide on projects. And all these can be weighted metrics that overall arrive at a weighted prioritization score so that you can see relatively which projects probably are the highest value and the best choices for your organization based upon your priorities. With that being said, as I look at an overall portfolio and I look at portfolio prioritization scores, all of a sudden all the questions that get answered about projects are going to give me ROI and prioritization scores and individual scores in each of these categories so I can make better objective decisions about the best investment bets when money gets tight and we can't do everything. We mentioned early on about some of that top-down planning stuff. Well, what if we're here in this firewall configuration project and I want to understand what the resource requirements are going to be? I want to build a detailed task plan and assign resources to it. The capacity planner is going to give me the ability from a top-down to build a high-level capacity plan to make sure that I properly represent, from my level of knowledge at this point in time, what the resource requirements are going to be for this particular project. So here, very simply, notice very early on I need a business analyst and a project manager. And I can choose whether to do this in FTEs or hours or whatever basis makes the most sense. But the key here is, in this case with FTEs, I'm saying I need a business analyst half-time, 0.5, for 2 months. I need a project manager a quarter time for 2 months. And as you go through the different stages of the life cycle, for example, I can go in here and say, you know, for the project manager realm, I'm going to go down here and I want to find matches for who might be a candidate. And it's going to rank my matches by different levels of priority and availability. And at some point in time, when I find the right person, or if there is a right person, I can actually add them and make them the project manager, for example, to fill that role on this particular project. So the key here is, with not a lot of planning detail, we can actually get an idea what it's going to take to do all these projects. For example, if I do a resource plan for all of these proposed and active projects, and I go into the capacity versus demand view, let's just say I run the software development group. If I look at the resource plan, it's going to slice it from an organizational perspective rather than a project or portfolio item perspective. So let's just say from January 12th to December. So I'll look at for this year. Excuse me. Let me make it from January to December, and we'll look at it for a 12-month period. And I display it. It's now going to show me, and I can choose FTEs or hours, and I can see the different projects my department is supporting. I can see which resources in each of those projects I'm supporting, and I can see to what degree I am supporting them. And then down below, I can see each individual resource, and I can see to what degree I'm over or under allocated based upon the current plan. I would submit to you with good visibility, the chances of outside of this demo data of you being this over allocated is much less likely because of the fact that you can see where you're already committed before you assign yet more resource. Also, I can come in here and say, let me look at all this and let me look at a totals graph. And I can see that from an overall capacity perspective, I'm never that over allocated based upon my head count. But what if I look at it from a different perspective? What if I don't total it by resource? What if I total it just by the roles and the categories and apply that? Now, I can look down here and I can see as I aggregate those people's hours, I can see, God, I got a lot of red in the DBA and the developer realm. So if I actually look at the DBA realm, I can see that I have significant over-allocation in the DBA skill set. I can also see that I have significant over-allocation in certain months in the developer aspect. And I can slice through this in any number of different ways that makes the most sense to me. Also, if I go back to the Portfolio Center, I can actually model this from a very detailed cost perspective. So let's just say I grab a project and I go to the cost planner. You can actually configure all the different cost categories you might budget to. And in this case, I've got some labor. I've got some non-labor, hard dollar, where the labor is actually built on FTEs or hours. And I can actually update these and actually, based upon the quantity of labor I put in here, it might change the cost that's associated with that. So it's based upon units, FTEs or hours. But I might have some hard dollar categories like material and contracts and travel and living and other things like that. End of the day, this time phase detailed budget is going to arrive at a total budget for my project that's supported by very granular line item detail. So if we do all that, we can start looking at the resource and the cost perspectives, and we can start doing some modeling. For example, let's just say I selected all the proposed and active projects in my portfolio, and I go into the modeler. The modeler is going to then select all the projects and put them into this scenario. And once again, this is in a what-if mode. And I can start looking at things like prioritization, business initiatives, ROI, prioritization scores, etc. And when I do that, I can do a couple things. One, let me stretch out this across 2012. I can actually start applying targets to this, like my current budget, which could be my current resource and my cost budget. But notice down below, this turns into a heat map, which shows me, in this case, from a cost perspective, where I might be over or under budget. So, for example, from a cost view, I can see that I'm over or under budget in these different cost categories. I can also see that from an FTE or a resource perspective where I may be short headcount in these particular disciplines that I'm looking for. So for example, I could do a mix of maybe we should deselect the lowest priority projects. Maybe that'll take care of it. Or maybe that doesn't totally solve the problem. Maybe what I also need to do is move out a project or two later in life so that I can actually fit all this in. The key is between staging projects and deselecting projects, I can work with and find the most optimum portfolio for me based upon very definitive things that I've defined. So that being said, we have a lot of things to offer at EPM Live. We have different tiers of solution from our lighter weight SaaS-based project engine through work engine and execution and portfolio engine for strategic planning that are both offered in a SaaS or in a license model for your own SharePoint infrastructure. Come check us out. Learn more about us. Request a free trial and sign up. Get hands-on with the solution, and let's see if we might be a good fit for you. With that, I'd like to thank you for your time today, and please feel to reach out to us at epmlive.com. There's an email address at info@epmlive.com or sales@epmlive.com, and we'll be happy to address any concerns or questions you might have. Thanks again. I hope you're having a great day.